At 82, I've seen my share of life's turns. But one decision stands out as a deep regret: moving into a nursing home. At the time, it felt like the right thing to do. My family reassured me it would be the best choice. They said I'd be safe, looked after, and comfortable. I trusted their judgment and believed that this move would give us all peace of mind. But the truth hit me shortly after. I arrived. The nursing home experience was nothing like what I'd been led to believe. If you or someone you care about is thinking about taking this step, please hear me out. I want to share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I made the move. Because once you enter, it's not as easy to leave, and the things you lose along the way may never fully return. The first and biggest thing I lost was my independence. What surprised me wasn't the size of the room or the scheduled meal times. It was how suddenly I was no longer in charge of my own life. Before the move, I had my own routines. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, when to take a walk or read a book. In the nursing home, everything was on a schedule, and not my own. Meals were served at fixed times. Lights went out whether I was tired or not, and even stepping outside required permission and availability of staff. It felt like my choices were no longer mine. I remember waking up that first week, sitting on the edge of a bed that didn't feel like it belonged to me. I reached for a book I used to keep by my chair at home, but it wasn't there. That small moment made it painfully clear. This was no longer my space. The life I knew had been traded for a system I hadn't chosen. Over time, you stop resisting. You adjust. You stop asking to eat at a different time or go for a walk. You learn to live by someone else's clock. And in doing so, you slowly lose touch with the person you used to be. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the everyday freedoms that make life feel like yours? The second regret came more slowly, but it stung just as much, feeling forgotten. When I first moved in, my family visited often. My daughter came every week, and my grandchildren stopped by when they could. It helped me feel connected, like I hadn't been left behind. But as time passed, those visits became less frequent. Calls replaced in-person visits, and even those became shorter. Everyone had their own lives, their own busyness. It wasn't that they stopped loving me. It's just that I became easier to overlook. Out of sight really does become out of mind. Holidays were the worst. Lots of promises, few arrivals. I spent many special days sitting in the common room watching the door, hoping today would be the day someone walked through it for me. I remember once holding my phone in my lap, thinking about calling my son. But I didn't want to seem needy. Didn't want to make him feel guilty. So I put it down and sat there in silence. That's the kind of loneliness they don't warn you about. If you think love alone will protect you from isolation in a nursing home, think again. No matter how much they care, your absence from their everyday lives makes it easy for them to forget how much you still need connection. The third thing I lost was a sense of purpose. It crept up quietly, but it had a lasting impact. At home, I had things to do. They might have been small, but they gave me a reason to start each day. Making my coffee, watering the plants, tidying my space. Those weren't just chores. They were anchors. When I moved in, those responsibilities disappeared. Meals were brought to me, rooms cleaned by staff, and there was nothing for me to look after. At first, I welcomed the break. I thought I'd earned the right to rest. But before long, the days began to blur together. Without something meaningful to focus on, each hour dragged. I saw it in others too. One man, George, had been a carpenter his whole life. At home, he was always building something. Here, there was nothing to fix, nothing to build, nothing to create. He told me one day, "I feel like I've been unplugged." And I knew exactly what he meant. When there's nothing to care for, life starts to feel empty. Your hands forget their purpose and your heart follows. If you're considering this move, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning right now? And how will you hold on to that when all the routines are taken away? Looking back, I realize I underestimated how much my health would change after I moved into the nursing home. Before, I wasn't in perfect shape, but I could take care of myself. I had my little routines, cooking simple meals, walking to the store, stretching in the mornings. Those small activities kept me going. But once I was in the home, all of that faded. Meals were delivered, help was always available, and I barely had to move to get through the day. At first, it seemed like a luxury. I didn't need to stand over a hot stove, didn't need to sweep the floor or carry groceries. But slowly, the parts of me that kept me strong started to slip away. My legs stiffened from lack of use. Climbing out of bed started to feel harder. Even walking to the dining hall became a task I dreaded. The less I did for myself, the more I relied on others, and the faster my body seemed to give in. I wasn't the only one. I saw it in the others around me. Some came in using walkers or canes, and within a few months they were using wheelchairs. My neighbor, Alice, used to walk laps around the courtyard every morning. She was full of energy and refused to let her age slow her down. But then the walk stopped. She told me one day, "I don't know what happened. I just got tired." And I understood. When everything is designed to make life easier, it's tempting to stop pushing yourself. But the truth is, the easier things get, the weaker you become. If I had known how quickly my strength would fade, I would have fought harder to stay active, even if it meant struggling through the discomfort. So if you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself this: when everything is taken care of for you, will you still have the will to take care of yourself? Then there's something people don't often talk about: the loss of privacy and dignity. I never thought I'd be in a place where someone else decided when I could shower or whether I could take a walk. But that's exactly what happened. At home, I could close my door, sit in silence, enjoy my thoughts. I had space that was mine. In the nursing home, privacy became something I had to hope for, not something I could count on. Staff walked in and out at all hours. Room checks, medication times, cleaning rounds, they were all part of the routine. Even the simple act of getting dressed sometimes required assistance. I knew the staff meant well, and I was grateful for their help. But it's not easy to need help with things you've done on your own your whole life. Some of the hardest moments were when I needed to use the restroom and had to wait for someone to come help. Or when I wanted to shower, but it wasn't my turn. It's hard to describe what that does to your spirit. You feel like a child again, except this time, there's no growing up ahead of you, only more waiting. Not everyone gets a private room either. I was lucky with my roommate, but others weren't. I heard stories about people sharing spaces with residents who were loud at night, or who didn't take care of themselves, or who had memory issues that made daily life difficult. You can't always choose who you share a space with, and that lack of control wears on you. Over time, it changes the way you see yourself. You stop feeling like an adult with a lifetime of experiences and start feeling like a number on a schedule. I didn't realize how much my sense of dignity depended on the little freedoms: choosing what to eat, when to sleep, whether to be alone. In the nursing home, those choices are filtered through policies, staff availability, and routines. It's a hard adjustment, especially when you've spent decades making your own way in the world. If you're thinking about this move, consider carefully whether you're ready to give up that control. Because once you're inside, getting it back is harder than you might think. Perhaps the most surprising realization was this: once you're in a nursing home, it's much harder to leave than it is to enter. When I first moved in, I told myself it was temporary. I just wanted to try it, to see how it felt. I assumed that if I didn't like it, I could go back home. But things didn't work out that way. For one, the house I left behind started to change without me. My family, trying to be helpful, sold some of my belongings, rearranged furniture, and even talked about renting the house out. They didn't mean any harm. They just thought I wouldn't need those things anymore. But by the time I decided I wanted to leave, the home I knew wasn't the same. I also wasn't the same. Months of depending on others had taken their toll. I wasn't as strong or as confident. I began to doubt whether I could live on my own again. And I wasn't alone. I met other residents who had come in with similar thoughts, just staying for a little while. But they were still there years later. Some had sold their homes, others had drained their savings, paying for care. Returning to the life they left behind was no longer possible. That's the part nobody warns you about. The decision to move into a nursing home often feels like something you can undo. But for most of us, it's the beginning of a one-way journey. If you're standing at that crossroad right now, please ask yourself, if you go in and you decide it's not for you, will you be able to leave? As I sit here now, years later, I realize that growing old isn't what I feared. It's what I misunderstood. Aging didn't take away who I was. It didn't erase my memories or my wisdom. What changed me wasn't the number of candles on my birthday cake. It was the environment I stepped into when I moved into the nursing home. I thought I was choosing safety. I thought I was choosing convenience, a little help here and there. But what I actually chose was a system that slowly replaced my independence with routine. my freedom with structure, and my voice with silence. That's the truth no one talks about. The decision to move into a nursing home is rarely just about health or support. It's often about fear. Fear of falling, fear of being alone, fear of being a burden to family. But fear is a poor compass. And when we make life-altering choices from a place of fear, we often trade too much. I wish someone had told me that help doesn't have to mean giving everything up, that there are other options, that aging at home with support, whether through hired help, adult daycare, or home health services, might cost money, but it might save your spirit. I wish I had asked more questions, fought a little harder, explored more alternatives before saying yes to something I didn't fully understand. I don't share all of this to scare you or make you feel hopeless. I share it because someone needs to. I know there are people watching this who are right now considering the same move I made, maybe for themselves, maybe for a parent or spouse. I want you to hear from someone who's been there, not the brochure version, not the idealized pitch, the lived truth. Life in a nursing home isn't always bad, but it is different. It changes you in ways you might not see coming. It happens slowly. First, your schedule isn't your own, then your choices shrink. Then one day you wake up and you don't recognize the life you're in. Not because you've forgotten who you are, but because the world around you has made you forget how to be yourself. If I could go back, I'd have done things differently. I would have looked for in-home care. I would have talked openly with my family about my needs, physical, emotional, and personal. I would have asked for support, not surrender. And most of all, I would have trusted my instincts. Because deep down, I knew I wasn't ready to give up my home, my privacy, my freedom. But I let guilt and fear and polite encouragement convince me otherwise. To those who are still able to choose wisely. If you're still living in your own home and managing well, even with some difficulty, treasure it. Don't be so quick to trade your independence for convenience. Try to find ways to adapt before you decide to relocate. Ask yourself honestly, do I need full-time care or just some help? Can I make my home safer instead of leaving it? What will I lose, not just physically, but emotionally, if I leave? And if you've already made the move, like I did, it's not too late to advocate for yourself. Find small ways to reclaim your routines. Ask for choices, speak up, push your body gently, call your loved ones, share how you're feeling. The environment may not be perfect, but the spark inside you still matters. It doesn't have to go out. Getting older isn't the end of your story. It's a new chapter. One that deserves to be lived with dignity, purpose, and as much joy as possible. Don't let fear write that chapter for you. Don't let comfort silence your desires. Fight, even gently, to hold on to the parts of life that make you feel alive. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below and let us know what you're taking away from this story. Share your experience, your worries, your thoughts, because your voice matters. If you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need to hear it. You never know who might be one decision away from losing something they didn't realize they valued so much. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and remember you have more control than you think.